Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. It's been a long time since I posted like an actual guide. I think it's been like 2 months now, I want to say. Speaking of which, you can tell I'm already rusty. Because what is going on, man? Oh, would you always? Okay. So as I was saying, it's been a while since I made a video, but today we're going to be talking about TVP cheeses. I recently uploaded this stream highlight, my latest video, where I played this guy who's super cheesy and did like a bunch of stuff. A bunch of different like cheese after cheese after cheese, basically. And so I wanted to explain my thought process and how I scout all that stuff because I think scouting TVP cheeses was something that I personally struggled with for a really long time. Especially like, I feel like when I was going from like Masters to GM, it was like the one thing I struggled the most with was like, I'd be very consistent in macro games, but I would lose a bunch of MR to somebody who is like a bit lower than me, but they got away with a really good cheese. But eventually I kind of like got comfortable and I figured out a thought process for everything. And so I'll walk you guys through that today. So this is a 3 spawn map, and I will put a disclaimer in that I do know that my opponent is cheesy. So going into this game, I have a suspicion that they're going to do something like a proxy gate at most. Okay. Usually what this person does is they build a bunch of units in your main. And so that's kind of what I was expecting. But again, because it's a 3-player map, it's not really possible, right? So he ended up proxy gating me, but you'll see like it's pretty crazy. So first thing I do is obviously I need to scout, right? So I'm on a 3 spawn map. Even if I do know that he's cheesing me, there's a bunch of cheeses he can do. So how do I figure that stuff out? Now, luckily here, I do get an immediate scout on the first base. Okay, so I guess in this context, maybe we should just assume that this is just a 2 spawn map, like instead of a 3 spawn map. And so you'll always know where your opponent spawns. So I come into the main and I see immediately this building. Now, usually this is a cybernetics core, so that's why I don't click on it yet. But you see I'm clicking a bit more forward because I want to see if there's a gateway. Now, obviously there is no gateway because gateway doesn't fit here, but I'm still getting used to these maps. And so I look and I'm like, okay, there's no gateway, but there's a cyber core. So obviously that's a proxy gate, right? I think that's fairly easy to say. The reason why it's not like proxy gate with one gate in the main is because obviously the gateway is missing, but also then there's like a second pylon. So pylon's in the main, cybernetics core is being built, no gateway in the main, therefore the first gateway is the gateway that was proxied. Okay, so I see they're mining gas and I see they have chrono boost, but what matters is how they use that chrono boost. So it's possible the gateway finishes and then they use a chrono boost, they dump the chrono boost on the gateway. Maybe it's 2 gateways that were proxied, you know, I'm kind of looking for that. And now I see my next clue there. Second gas, and then another gateway. Okay, so here I'm thinking, all right. Sorry, I'm going to try not to move too much because I don't want to get too far from the microphone. Okay, so from here, I know 2 gateways, 2 gases, a cybernetics core, and chrono boost. Okay, the cybernetics core isn't done yet, obviously. And they haven't used the chrono boost yet. So I think it's fairly safe to assume at this point that they're going to use the chrono boost probably for a tech unit. Okay. So they're probably saving it so they can dump chrono boost on like a robo or a stargate or something like that. In my opinion, going into this, the 2 answers or the 2 choices that I was leaning most towards were proxy robo and proxy stargate. Okay. Obviously with wherever the gateway was built. Now, on a 3 spawn map like this, if they're going to proxy gate you, they obviously don't know where you're going to spawn. So most of the time, people build their proxy gates in the middle of the map, right? Because that is like even distance between all the bases. It actually ends up being right there. But as you can see, he's built nothing from it. And, you know, it could be because maybe I scouted and also the fact that it's more of a mind game kind of thing, right? When you like aren't sure what to do in these scenarios, you might freak out, and the first thing you do is like, okay, I have to defend. But once you get practice with these scenarios, you start kind of like knowing how many units you need for specific scenarios, right? So for example, here I played a really safe build. I played double gas, so I'm not really freaking out. I would be more concerned if like he took a natural to set it. Then I'd be like, oh shit, okay, like I gotta adjust X, Y, and Z, right? Because I'm on one base. Of course, now with the double gas, like I said, I feel a bit safer. So like even if it's a robo or a stargate, I'm not really freaking out, okay? So I have an idea that the gateways are on the middle. It's not really important to scout the gateway right now. Nothing has shown up yet, and the chrono boost hasn't been used. If the chrono boosts were being dumped, then I would be more concerned. I might build a bunker here because then I'd be like, okay, he's chronoing out a stalker. He's chronoing out an adept. Okay, so something might happen. Because I think it's proxy target, proxy robo, I decide to build a bunker in my wall and lift my barracks. This is just to make it a little bit easier to defend my supply depots and also not as easy for them to kill them, right? If I build a bunker on one side, I can't defend the other side. And if, likewise, if I do the other way around, I can defend the opposite side. So that's why I choose to do this. I think it's worth lifting the barracks to do this. And I do it specifically in this scenario where it's proxy robo, proxy Stargate. Here I come in. I see there's still floating chrono boost. I get a probe. Great for me, right? I don't see any gateway units building. I actually do see warp gate researching, but I didn't want to lose my Reaper. So at this point, I'm actually really confused. I didn't realize I killed 3 probes here. That's sick. So at this point, I'm very confused. And the reason why I'm confused is because the chrono boost hasn't been used yet, but they're still mining a lot of gas, and they're actually floating a little bit of gas. It's great that I killed the probes, right? But I've obviously lost my scouting unit, so I made an executive decision. I made a bit of a trade. Technically, I think the safest choice is to not do that. I think the safest thing you could do is keep your Reaper alive. It's very tempting to get probe kills, but I think if you're not confident with holding stuff without scouting, or you just want to scout more in general, I think it is important that you keep that Reaper alive. And so I decide I want to kill probes instead. And I think I do have a worker here. That's like, oh, I should have mentioned that. That's something I like to do a lot with my scouting worker. I will keep it on the other side of the map and then use it to scout later on. That's why it's hiding there. So my Reaper dies, he goes across the map, and now I follow up with the worker scout. It's a good thing I caught that. So now I go in, and if there's any tech in the main, I can scout it. Unfortunately, I decide to look for a natural. But if I would have kept looking, I would have seen the Twilight Council, and then I would have inferred that because the Twilight Council is so late, that he has the natural. Okay, so this was my mistake. I highly recommend that if you decide to keep the worker in the main and scout later on, that you make sure you go all the way around the base. And in general, that's just a really good scouting tip and a very good mechanical thing to do every game. Even if you think you know for sure what's happening, it's better to just keep that worker there and then scout the entire way, because you never know, like somebody might throw a curveball at you, okay? So at this point, I decide I'm going to build a natural. And the reason why I decide I'm going to build a natural is because A, I'm already playing a very safe build. B, I don't know what's happening. And C, I don't want to put myself in an all-in position. I don't want my opponent to take a base, trick me, and then they're taking a base, and then I'm stuck on one base. I have to all-in them. But they've already been playing in an aggressive way, like they have extra tech sooner, extra gateway sooner. My worker goes from the natural back into the main, and then I scout the Dark Shrine. With the Dark Shrine, most of the time people go charge first. So when I saw the Dark Shrine, I'm like, okay, he's probably going to go charge. He might go blink DT. But because we played so safe, I already have all the units I need, right? Viking for a Prism. If there is one, sorry. Marines, I got a Raven coming out. I'm good. And because the Dark Shrine's so late, if it were truly a one-base DT build, it would show up a bit earlier. But because it's not, because it's not showing up so early, that means he has a natural base. Okay, and obviously I don't know where it is because the map's big, but it's safe to assume that that's the case. Worst case scenario, if he doesn't have it, then he's just playing bad, right? Like he's going for like the worst DT opener in the world. I have all the right units I need to defend, and I'm confident that I can defend it. Again, that comes from experience. I can't lie. Like I've been in this scenario many times. This is the first time I've handled something like this, so that's why I can say that. Okay, so what do I decide to do upon this new information that I'm being 5-minute DT'd? Okay, I decide I want to go for Cloak Banshee. And the reason why I decide I want to go for Cloak Banshee is because he's invested all his gas into tech. That's not a robo, right? They've invested gas into DT. They've invested gas into the Dark Shrine itself, the Twilight Council, the DTs themselves. I already mentioned that. Like the Stalker that I saw, the 2 Stalkers that I saw. So, and he's probably going to go charge follow-up. So he has to decide if he's going to go hammer it down, get all the gateways, and start going for a big Zealot DT 2-base meme, or if they're going to incorporate additional tech like a robo. The thing is, he's not actually rich either, right? The DTs are expensive. He hasn't really probed up the natural. And if he's getting like charged, like or Twilight Council upgrades, that's also expensive. So if he decides to go for a robo immediately following the DTs, then that delays other things, right? It delays upgrades like +1 armor, +1 attack, for Blink, additional Stalkers, Temple Archives, like all those kinds of things are delayed if they decide to go for the Robo. That also includes additional gateways, right? So as a this is like one gateway that can be built right now. And so if he's all letting you, that's detrimental because they want to have as many gateways as possible. So they come in, go for this, and immediately I'm like, okay, charge first. Archon, I kept my bunker, I have my Raven, I might lose my workers, that's okay. I bring everything here to defend, and I defend. Do I lose some SCVs? Sure, right? But what they lost was a little bit expensive. Now I'm going to follow up with my Banshees, they remain unscouted. And so that's what I'm going for. Now, one thing I do want to add, and the reason why I'm a little bit hesitant to add it is because it's not necessarily true 100% of the time. Where basically, if you play somebody who's cheesy like this, they tend to cheese 95% of their games, right? And what that signals is basically, funny enough, like you would think that I would approach this as like, because he cheeses so often, he's more accustomed to dealing with these types of scenarios. But from my point of view, it's more so of like, I feel like I have better, stronger fundamentals of the game and a better late game. So I feel like the longer the game goes, it's more favorable for me, even if I'm technically a little bit behind in the current state of the game. Okay, so that's why I'm not like freaking out or anything like that, because I feel like the longer the game goes, so long as I defend it and decently and get to the late game, that I'll be okay. And obviously my Banshees haven't been scouted yet, so that's also pretty nice. So I come in with one Banshee. Unfortunately, he does build 2 shield batteries, which I think is pretty smart, actually. I would have liked to have waited for 2 Banshees then at that point. So I see it, and I'm like, lame. So I start targeting the battery. He pulls the probes. That's nice. That's exactly what I want. I see the recall, and I know, okay, there's an observer now. And then I pull away. Here I come in with the Viking. I shoo away the prism. He has to retreat, and then I defend this. Again, I'm playing very safe. I'm building a wall. I'm keeping my units together. I already had the Viking. I have the Raven energy. The bunker is still still built. I'm not getting rid of it. In fact, I'm adding another one. And I've split up my Banshees. So now the one observer has to be... Oh, now there's 2 observers. So my thought process was wrong there anyway. But again, like I said earlier, this is the nice thing is like, yes, okay, he built the Robo, he built the batteries, and he built the observers and defended the Banshees, but that also came at the cost of having these gateways sooner. So as opposed to having the 5 gateways earlier, and maybe warping in units like 5 more zealots here, 7 more zealots here, and potentially killing me, everything was delayed. So now these gateways are operational a bit later. That's fantastic. Actually, there's 7 gateways now? Yeah, exactly. So he might have had those 7 gateways earlier as a result of that. And at this point, I would say I've traded decently. My Banshees are still alive. Forcing Stalkers to be built is fantastic. And now I'm just going to keep being annoying. I'm going to keep doing damage, and I'm going to keep defending. And just every time Zealots come by, I don't fight with my workers. I pull them into my defense, and I try to consolidate my defense to one single point. So you notice I retreat my workers to my main for my natural. I retreat my workers from my main to the top of my ramp. These get united, and then whatever units are chasing them would have to go directly in the middle. And I don't have to split up my units to defend. Everything is defended together. And if they decide they don't want to follow me and stay wherever they are, then that also makes it easier for me to organize my units so then I can approach the scenario a bit differently. Okay. Now at that point, I'm like, all right, he's probably going to build a third, right? Like, I don't think he's going to keep all-inning me, so what am I going to do? Well, I need upgrades still, right? So I still need to get my upgrades. I'm going to try to harass with my Banshees, but also scout, and there I see the third. I get that. I don't get the Prism, but I'm trying to. And he keeps losing Zealous. So at this point, seeing that there's a third base on the way, considering how many units I've killed, my combat shield's nearly done, I have Stim, I have 2 medevacs, and I'm controlling the map with the Banshees, I feel confident in moving out. Okay. And it can be a little bit risky, for sure. For example, here, I didn't think I was going to run into 3 Archons outside of my base, followed by Zealous. So it is definitely risky, and that's where I advise, like, okay, yeah, he might have been building a third, but that also doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to just, like, decide they want to play a proper late game and build, like, 95 probes and take every base on the map. He could just build it, transfer a few, and then all-in you again, right? So you have to really respect that, and basically just try to keep up with your scouting as much as you can. And yeah, and so here I add my extra barracks. I'm taking my third. I had another good trade leaving my base. That third base is not mining. And again, I keep that bunker alive. I keep my units in here. I'm trying to focus down that prism. The Viking never left. And what could have been a really, really tricky scenario there is defended, because I just made sure that I didn't get too complacent. And kept that bunker. Didn't rally across the map. And knew that, hey, there's a prism alive. I gotta make sure that I don't get caught with my pants down and lose all my units. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I defend this. Don't worry, chatters. Do not worry. This one's good. And yeah, so that's it for this video, guys. Hope you guys found that helpful. Yeah, I know I haven't uploaded in a long. Jesus, I think it's squeaky. I haven't uploaded in a long time. You know, I'm gonna try my best to upload more, but no promises, because I don't want to be a liar. All right, guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.